On the eve of our wedding, my fiancé had an affair with my best friend, Viper. My parents were so angry that they severely scolded Viper. Unexpectedly, she held a grudge and drove an SUV into our family. My parents died in that car accident, and I also injured my eyes and became blind as a result. I was filled with grief and despair. Just then, let out a well sigh. Vernon appeared. He helped me deal with my parents' funerals, performed the eye surgery on me himself, and also handled Viper's case for me. When we received the death penalty judgment for Viper, he knelt down on the spot and proposed to me, saying that he wanted to take care of me for the rest of my life. In the 3rd year of our marriage, I accidentally overheard his conversation with a friend. I heard that Viper is coming back. Back then, you managed to send her abroad with a clever ruse. And you married Scarlett, whom you have no feelings for. Just for her. You're too harsh on yourself. It's nothing. I can't bear to see Viper suffer. Not even a little bit. The door of the study room was ajar, and Vernon was sitting on the sofa, his voice full of helplessness. I had no choice at that time. I could only marry Scarlett. I didn't know when she would have the whim to look into the case. And then it would definitely be revealed. So it's safest to keep her by my side. His friend continued to ask in confusion. Then why didn't you perform an eye transplant surgery for Scarlett? Several suitable donors have appeared one after another in recent years. She has to use that medicine that stimulates the muscles around her eyes every day. You're an ophthalmologist, and you know best how painful that medicine is. She feels like dying every time she applies the medicine. Twice a day. How could you have the heart to let Scarlett suffer like this year after year? Vernon let out a long sigh. I can't cure Scarlett's eyes. Otherwise, when Viper comes back, how can she enter my life? It's best that she can't see. The medicine can't be stopped either. Otherwise Scarlett will get suspicious. Unless she chooses to give up by herself. For Scarlett's sake, Viper even had a vocal cord surgery. Just to change her voice so that Scarlett won't recognize her. Viper has already made such a great sacrifice. What more can I ask of her? The friend got anxious. Can that minor surgery be compared to the pain Scarlett endures every day? Of course it can. There's no such thing as a minor or major surgery. Viper took such a big risk just to come back to me. I can't even imagine what Viper looked like lying on the operating table. Fortunately, Haddington filled me. The surgery went smoothly. Otherwise, how could I live? The friend fell silent, and then slowly said, Vernon, is it fair for you to treat Scarlett like this? Have you ever thought about what would happen if she knew all these things? Vernon didn't say anything. After a while, he said, whatever. I can't think that much. If she wants to avenge her parents, she can just take my life. Anyway, I plan to take care of her for the rest of her life. This is the most trivial thing I can do for Viper. I clenched my fists tightly by my side, and my whole body felt as if I had jumped into an ice cellar. Enough. I've heard enough. I quietly turned off the recording function on my phone. Before I was discovered, I turned around and quietly returned to the bedroom, collapsing on the floor. I thought Vernon was the greatest salvation bestowed upon me by heaven. But I never expected that he was the biggest lie. No wonder he no longer let me contact my childhood friend Lynn, who is also an ophthalmologist. It turned out that he was afraid that Lynn would cure my eyes. No wonder he didn't let me ask a single question about Viper. It turned out that she wasn't dead at all, but was living a carefree life abroad. No wonder when he proposed to me back then, I refused him several times, saying that I wasn't in good health and would be a burden. But he still insisted. I just thought I was lucky to have met someone who truly loved me. But I forgot that someone who is overly enthusiastic and persistent towards you either loves you to death or is scheming against you to death. I'm just a proof of Vernon's infatuation with love. Remembering last night, Vernon and I were still in this room, on this bed, doing all the things that a husband and wife do. He murmured in a daze in my ear. Scarlett, did you poison me? Why can't I ever get enough of you? Don't leave me. Stay by my side. I even laughed at him. Where can I go? I can't see anyway. You're my husband. So I'll be wherever you are. I covered my chest. My heart ached so much that it seemed to be twisted together. and I could hardly breathe. Just then, what out a well sigh. I heard Vernon's footsteps getting closer and closer in the distance. Losing my vision has made my hearing extremely sensitive, especially the sound of Vernon walking. I've never mistaken it. I got up in a panic from the floor and lay on the bed with my back to the door. Vernon came closer, and seeing that I was still asleep, he reached out and gently stroked my hair, talking to himself. "Are you tired from last night? You didn't even move. You're such a delicate little thing." The joy and doting in his tone didn't seem fake. After he and his friend went downstairs and drove away, I sat up again. "Vernon, you're cold-blooded. Yet you're also gentle. You hurt me. But you also dote on me." I called Lynn. "Lynn, went out a well sigh. Please keep an eye out for an eye-donor that matches me." "Scarlett. Why didn't you tell me you changed your phone number? Why haven't you contacted me for so long? I just called Vernon this morning. And there happened to be a suitable donor for you. Didn't he tell you?" I was stunned for a few seconds. And my heart suddenly trembled. It hurt so much. "Very well. Really very well. Vernon. Lynn, went out a little sigh. Can you arrange the surgery for me?" "I'm sure. I'll be hospitalized the day after tomorrow? And have the surgery the day after that?" "No problem." I put down the phone and got up to go downstairs. When Scarlett's mother saw me, she hurried up to me. "Madam." Before he went out, "Sir told me to keep the porridge warm so that you can have it at the right temperature whenever you wake up." I nodded. As I was drinking the porridge, I heard the whispers of the servants. "Sir is really good to Madam." "Yes, t'avais too. Madam is also gentle. Madame and Sir are truly a match made in heaven." See? Vernon can always do these little things to the extreme, filling every gap in your life. He makes you get used to him, fall in love with him, and finally be unable to leave him. After having a meal, I went out. I was busy outside all day and didn't come back until evening. Vernon wasn't at home. At night, I was lying in bed when I heard Vernon come back. He hugged me from behind. "Why didn't you turn on the light?" "It's all the same whether the light is on or not. I'm a blind person anyway." Vernon's hand around my waist paused slightly. "On weekdays. Even if I was asleep, as long as he hadn't come back. The lights in the room were always on. Because I wanted Vernon to see the light when he came back at night." "Don't talk nonsense. It will be cured. I promise." Vernon coaxed me softly in my ear. The strong smell of alcohol sprayed on my neck, making me feel extremely nauseous all of a sudden. I suddenly sat up and unconsciously wiped my neck that had the smell of alcohol on it with my hand. It seemed that my action scared Vernon. He was stunned for a moment before speaking a little nervously. "Scarlett. What's wrong with you today?" I knew what he was referring to usually when he came back from socializing. No matter how late it was, I would prepare a bowl of hangover soup that I cooked myself for him. I would also gently knead his temples to relieve his discomfort. But today, none of these things happened. Vernon was a bit at a loss. "Scarlett. Did I do something wrong recently? I went to visit my parents' graves today." "Vernon. I miss them so much. Is Viper really dead? I've been dreaming about my parents these days. They keep saying in my dreams that things aren't over yet." Vernon sighed and stepped forward to hug me. "Scarlett. Don't you trust me yet? I saw with my own eyes that she was executed. I know you miss your parents. But we can't keep indulging in the past. Your parents also want you to live a happy life. Right?" My heart ached. On the day of the execution, I fainted for no apparent reason. Now that I think about it, this must also be one of Vernon's tricks. If my parents knew that I was sharing a bed with the accomplice who sheltered the murderer, they would probably come back to life out of anger. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Vernon wasn't angry either. He could tell that I was in a very bad mood today. "Scarlett is in a really bad mood today. Are you tired from going out? It's okay. Your husband will draw you a bath and give you a massage to relax. Be good." After saying that, he went to the bathroom on his own. Every time I was in a bad mood, he would always carry me to take a bath. It seemed to have become a habit. I used to think it was tender. But now I feel like I'm just Vernon's pet. Even soothing me is just to give him a sense of accomplishment. The sound of water stopped, and Vernon carried me into the bathroom. I knew that even if I refused, the result would be the same. So why bother saying anything? My clothes were taken off. The water temperature was just right, and there was a faint smell of sea salt. Vernon was sitting by the bathtub, pouring water over me one handful at a time. Do you want to wash your hair? A hoarse and low voice came from Vernon's mouth. Half suppressed and half tempting. No need. Vernon. His hand gently rubbed my shoulders and slowly slid down, stopping at. His breathing became heavier and heavier, and the strength in his hands also increased. Have you found a donor for my eyes? Hearing this, Vernon's movement stopped for a moment. Not yet, Scarlett. I ask every day. Unfortunately, after all this time, there's still no news of a donor. Does it hurt a lot when you use the medicine every day? If I could, I really want to take this pain for you. The last thread in my heart snapped. I knew that at this moment, Vernon and I had become enemies. I also don't know how Vernon can speak the most false lies in the most gentle tone and still be able to flirt with me calmly. In the room, Vernon's phone kept ringing. Before he could make any further moves on me, I asked him to go out and see what the emergency was. Vernon then reluctantly left the bathroom. He came back in less than 2 minutes and apologized, saying that there was an emergency at the hospital and he had to go out now. Before he left, he still carried me out, dried my hair, and helped me change into my pajamas. After everything was in order, he turned around in a hurry to leave. I grabbed his hand. Help me put in my eye drops. Scarlett. I'm in a hurry. Vernon's tone was obviously impatient. I tugged at his hand and slowly shook it, begging like a kitten. Please. Just this once. Vernon gave in. He skillfully opened my eyes and dropped the medicine in. At that moment, I arched my body, tightly bit my trembling lower lip, dug my hands hard into my eye sockets, stretched my toes, and sobbed silently. Just with that one time, fine sweat broke out on my head. Vernon firmly held my hands. Scarlett. Don't dig. It will be okay soon. Hold on. Hold on a little longer. Vernon hadn't fulfilled my mindset. I want you to remember the way I'm in pain. The feeling of being worse than death twice a day. All because of you. But it seemed that this was just my one-sided thought. Vernon seemed to have forgotten my pain as soon as he turned around. He didn't come back all night. And the next day he brought a woman home. Although she really changed her voice. How could she change her habitual cadence when speaking and adding a "ni" at the end of each sentence? After all, she was my closest best friend at that time. How could I not tell that it was her? Viper? Vernon. This must be sister-in-law, right? She's really beautiful. Her words were like a knife, stabbing deeply into my heart. Scarlett. This is my distant relative. Can see you. She will live here for a long time from now on. You too. Take some time to get to know each other. Viper is a nice girl, and you will definitely like her. Just from the sound of his voice, I could feel Vernon's genuine joy from the bottom of his heart. Viper ran up to me and, ignoring my refusal, forcefully grabbed my arm. Sister-in-law. Vernon rates me the best. Touch this custom-made dress of mine. This jade bracelet on my hand. And this latest necklace around my neck. They were all given to me by Vernon. Sister-in-law. Vernon has been sending me money all these years. He said he was afraid that I would have difficulties in my life. He gives me hundreds of thousands of you on every month. How could I have any problems with my life? What do you think, sister-in-law? I didn't say anything. Of course. I didn't know that Vernon had given her so much money and bought her so many gifts. Just a few days ago, I didn't even know she existed. The most expensive gift Vernon ever bought for me was the wedding ring he used to propose to me. Many of the clothes in my wardrobe have been washed until they turned white, and my jewelry box is empty. I didn't care about these material things before. I just thought that Vernon was too busy to have the thought to buy them for me. But now I know that he wasn't unaware. He just didn't use that thought on me. And with Viper's such low-level green tea remarks, trying to provoke the relationship between me and Vernon and wanting to see me lose my temper and composure, I don't believe that Vernon couldn't tell. In the end, he just coughed twice and replied softly. This is what an older brother should do. Seeing that I didn't react, Viper used more force with her hand. She pinched a small piece of flesh on my arm with her fingernails and squeezed it hard. I felt the pain and shook off my arm. She fell down as she was moving, and Vernon nervously stepped forward to support her. The two of them happened to hug each other. Viper, are you okay? Scarlett, what are you doing? Vernon's voice was so tense that it even changed its tone. Vernon, did sister-in-law not know that you sent me money and bought me things? It's my fault, Viper, for accidentally letting it slip. Sister-in-law was angry and pushed me away. Please don't blame sister-in-law. It's all my fault for making sister-in-law unhappy. Viper's pitiful voice made her seem so innocent and helpless. Scarlett, it's none of your business who I want to give my money to. Why don't you apologize to Viper right away? Vernon had never spoken to me so harshly before. Even the servants beside us looked over in surprise. Scarlett's mother, who usually took the best care of me, couldn't help but come forward. Sir, Madam has been standing there without moving at all. It was this young lady who pounced and then fell. With Madam such good temper, how could she possibly push someone else? Even an outsider could see it clearly. But Vernon was willing to play dumb with Viper. Vernon didn't say anything. He just asked in surprise. Scarlett, why is your arm bleeding? His familiar warm hands grabbed my arm. Viper actually scratched open the skin and flesh on my arm with her fingernails. Just then, Viper's voice rang out in a timely manner. Vernon, my foot seems to be sprained. It hurts so much. Vernon, I can't get up. Those warm hands finally let go of me. Vernon immediately turned around, picked Viper up in his arms, and carried her upstairs. How could it be so serious? I'll take a look at it for you upstairs. If it still hurts, I'll accompany you to the hospital. Be good and hold on for a while. When he was almost on the second floor, he finally shouted downstairs. Help Madam deal with the wound. And he disappeared into the corridor on the second floor. Scarlett's mother then came forward, helped me sit down, applied medicine, and sighed with heartache. There was an awkward silence on the first floor. I thought I would never hear them whispering about the love between the sir and the madam again. My arm was simply treated. But Vernon and Viper still hadn't come down. My phone was still in the bedroom upstairs. So I quietly went upstairs. I originally wanted to get my phone and come back down. But somehow I ended up walking to the guest room. Vernon, take a look at my foot. Is it okay? It still hurts a bit. Don't pinch it. It's so ticklish. Viper's voice was extremely coquettish. Vernon tried his best to hold back his gasps. Viper, don't do this. This is my home, and Scarlett is still downstairs. Vernon, don't you want Viper anymore? Wasn't it great last night? I know you've been with that woman you don't love for so long because of me. I have nothing to repay you with, except myself. Vernon, Hanan so wide session. I'll hold back and not make a sound. Vernon couldn't hold back any longer. He let out a low growl, roughly tore open his clothes. And then there were kisses, gasps, and moans. I silently pressed to stop the recording on my phone, went downstairs, and sat quietly in the courtyard. I don't know how long I sat there until someone came over. You knew it was me, right, Scarlett? How could you not know? But why are you pretending? Why didn't you lose your temper and question Vernon just now? Did you enjoy listening upstairs just now? It's a pity you couldn't see how intense it was between us. You blind woman. I knew I didn't need to change my voice. But in order to make your husband nervous and feel sorry for me, I still had an operation. Do you know that because of this operation, Vernon gave me 20 million yuan and also bought me a house and a car? Scarlett, do you think he loves you? You're just a free toy that he imprisoned and by his side for me. And you don't know this, right? When I crashed into you guys, because it was the evening rush hour and the traffic was congested, only one ambulance came first. Vernon pulled me away first, even though I only had a tiny scratch on my forehead. Your damn parents were still alive at that time. They even begged Vernon to save you first. You were already unconscious. The second ambulance didn't arrive at the scene until half an hour later. By the time it arrived, your parents had already passed away. Evil people will eventually get their comeuppance. They all deserve to die. I stood up in disbelief. And tears welled up in my eyes again. So this was the real reason why my parents died. The doctor who carried out the rescue at that time was a friend of Lynn's. He told me that if my parents could have arrived 10 minutes earlier, they wouldn't have died. 10 minutes. And I could still be a child with parents. Vernon. You deserve to die. Viper. You will die a horrible death. My parents treated you so well. Why? Why did you do this to our family? I've already given that man to you. Why did you still run over my parents? I shouted hysterically. It seemed that all the grievances I had endured for so long were poured out at this moment. Because you don't care at all. Scarlett. All of this is because of you. I thought you would be sad, heartbroken, and fall into the abyss and never be able to get up again when I stole your fiancé. But you didn't. You just threw him to me like trash and walked away gracefully. It shouldn't be like this. Scarlett. It shouldn't be like this. Why are you so arrogant? Why are you so graceful? As if the whole world belongs to you. Why does everyone like you and love you? Your parents even dared to scold me. They deserve to die. They should have scolded you. Not me. How could a person be so shameless? I walked towards Viper based on the sound, but she slapped me in the face. She raised her hand and wanted to hit me again. I directly grabbed her arm and started fighting with her. I hate myself for being blind. Otherwise, I would kill her right now. If I kill her, I'll also go down to accompany my parents and end it all. Just then, wall sigh. I was pushed hard to the side and fell to the ground. There happened to be a sharp stone underneath me. And the tip of the stone cut through my leg. Warm liquid immediately flowed out. Vernon roared at me. Scarlett. Are you crazy? Viper just arrived less than a day ago. Viper sobbed and said. Vernon. I just came downstairs to talk to sister-in-law. She told me to get out and said I wasn't allowed to pester you anymore. I begged her not to drive me away. And she just. Vernon, heading for Selma and so. Don't leave me. Okay? Okay. Okay. How could I leave you? Viper. Don't cry. This is my home. And no one has the right to make you leave. Vernon gently comforted Viper. But then turned around and glared at me fiercely. Scarlett. I misjudged you. Do you really think of yourself as the mistress of this house? Without me. What are you? You'd better not lay a hand on Viper again. Or else. Before he could finish his words, he saw the blood flowing from underneath me. Vernon suddenly grabbed my shoulders. Scarlett. Why are you bleeding? Where are you hurt? Why didn't you say anything? I directly pushed away Vernon's hand. Vernon, couldn't still riot sigh. Who on earth is she? Who is she? Vernon fell silent. But Viper was still whimpering. Vernon, hadn't. My body hurts so much. And my throat hurts too. The foot that was sprained just now seems to have no feeling now. Vernon hesitated for a moment. But still picked up Viper. Scarlett. I'll send Viper to the hospital first. Wait for me to come back. Then he left without looking back. Scarlett's mother quickly came forward and helped me up. We walked back to the house with blood dripping all the way. Madam. Don't be angry. Maybe because that young lady just arrived, Sir didn't figure out the situation for a while. We've all seen Sir's feelings for you on a daily basis. He's not such a heartless person. Scarlett's mother treated my wound while comforting me. But her words became less and less confident. I stumbled up to the second floor. Put the signed divorce agreement on the bed in the bedroom. I only took my phone and my relevant documents and then left this place where I had lived for 3 years. I was woken up by Vernon's phone call in the old house. Scarlett. How are your leg and arm? They said you didn't come home last night. You have bad eyesight and you're injured. Why are you running around? His tone was filled with exhaustion and worry. Viper just returned to the country. And she's not familiar with this place. I'll spend more time with her these days. Don't think too much about it. Tomorrow is your birthday. And I'll definitely come back to accompany you to celebrate it in the evening. Okay? Vernon didn't know that Viper had already sent me the video of their impulsive passion in the hospital ward last night. Listening to this recording, I just thought she was stupid. She actually took the initiative to hand the evidence to me. Okay, Vernon. I'll also give you a gift tomorrow. Scarlett. You're going to give me a gift on your birthday? Okay. See you tomorrow. I hung up the phone, packed up briefly, and then went to the hospital that Lynn had informed me about in advance. When Lynn saw me, she rushed towards me directly and said, half crying and half laughing, "You heartless person. You ignored me after getting married. Are you really that obsessed with your lover and neglectful of your friends? I think that Vernon is not a good guy. Did he bully you because of his wealthy and powerful family background?" I slowly leaned my head on Lynn's shoulder and then dared to let my tears flow freely. I turned off my phone and blocked all calls, including Vernon's. Of course. After putting down the phone, he started to choose a birthday gift for me. In previous years, at most, he would just ask his assistant to prepare a cake for my birthday. But this year was different. For some reason, ever since Viper came back, he had always felt particularly uneasy. Thinking of the recent phone call, Scarlett has even prepared a gift. Although she's angry, she still loves me. Just at the thought of this, the corners of Vernon's mouth involuntarily turned up. After careful selection, he finally chose an exquisite and not exaggerated dime and bracelet. He quickly made the payment arrangements and asked his assistant to pick it up. All day long, Vernon was in an extremely good mood. His mind involuntarily imagined how the bracelet would look on Scarlett's arm. There came a knock on the door. Vernon looked up and his face froze. He saw Viper walking in with a happy expression. And on her raised wrist was exactly the bracelet he had ordered for Scarlett. Vernon had infallible sigh. "This bracelet is so beautiful. Did you buy it for me specially to celebrate my discharge from the hospital?" At this moment, Vernon felt a trace of disgust towards Viper in his heart for the first time. And this feeling even startled himself. But he still habitually smiled at her indulgently and nodded. It's just that his previous smiles were all sincere, while this smile was full of insincerity. Only then did Viper say to the assistant behind her, "I said it was for me. You still lied to me and said it was bought by Vernon for Scarlett." Vernon gave the assistant a meaningful look, and the assistant closed the office door without saying a word. Viper stayed in Vernon's office for a whole day. In the evening, she said her throat was uncomfortable and insisted on dragging Vernon to her home. Vernon felt an indescribable sense of anxiety, because he still hadn't bought a birthday gift for Scarlett. The next day at noon, he finally had some free time. But there was no time to choose carefully. He could only personally rush to SKP and casually buy a wristwatch. This watch was very expensive. It couldn't be said to be bad, but in Vernon's eyes, it wasn't a perfect gift. Forget it. I'll make it up to Scarlett later. After work, for the first time, Vernon didn't answer Viper's call and went straight home instead. As soon as he entered the door, he saw Viper already sitting on the sofa in the living room. "Vernon. So today is sister-in-law's birthday. You won't blame me for coming uninvited, right? I also want to wish sister-in-law a happy birthday." Vernon frowned slightly and said to Viper with a hint of impatience for the first time, "Viper, today is Scarlett's birthday. I made an appointment with her before to accompany her on her birthday. I know. I won't cause trouble. Just let me stay here." "Okay, Vernon." Vernon hadn't answered her calls all afternoon, and Viper already sensed something. Now, seeing Vernon frown, Viper's heart was in a turmoil. Why? This guy who had always been obedient to her, now because of that bitch Scarlett, was being impatient with her. Vernon still couldn't refuse Viper like this, and could only let her stay. But it was only then that he realized that Scarlett wasn't at home. Scarlett's mother said that the madam hadn't come back for 2 nights. She didn't say where she had gone. And her phone was turned off. Vernon's heart began to feel irritated. He made an excuse that he was going upstairs to take a shower, left everyone behind, and strode up to the second floor and entered the bedroom. There was nothing missing. Scarlett's clothes were still there. Although they had been washed until they turned pale, the jewelry was still there too. Except that the wedding ring was lying alone in the jewelry box. What? The wedding ring? Did Scarlett take off the wedding ring? At this moment, Vernon started to panic. Scarlett had always cherished this ring the most, and would never take it off for no reason. Vernon was a bit scared and started to call Scarlett frantically. It was turned off. Turned off. No matter how many times he called, it was always turned off. Damn it. Vernon cursed her words in a fit of rage for the first time. He threw his phone onto the bed in frustration and then noticed the document placed on the bed. It was the divorce agreement that had already been signed. When Vernon saw Scarlett's name signed in the woman's section, he was stunned. It's impossible. Scarlett couldn't divorce me. At that moment, the fear of losing Scarlett made Vernon feel as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He tore up the divorce agreement like a madman and started calling Scarlett again and again. Sir. Sir. The madam sent something over. Hearing Scarlett's mother's words, Vernon rushed downstairs in a hurry and took the package from the flash delivery guy. Mr. Vernon? Scarlett said this is a gift for you. She specified that you should sign for it in person. Vernon was taken aback at first. And then he burst into laughter, feeling as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his mind. Scarlett. You're so naughty. First you made me nervous. And then you gave me a gift. Where are you? Come out quickly. Vernon looked around. But there was no sign of Scarlett. Scarlett's mother looked at Vernon as if he were a fool. Viper stared at Vernon's mood swings in a daze, her teeth itching with anger. Fine. Fine. You're all playing along with the madam, right? Well, I'll play along too. Then I'll open the gift now. Vernon quickly opened the packaging box. And his heart was filled with an unprecedented sweetness. He secretly made up his mind that he must treat Scarlett well in the future. He should probably have her eyes replaced. And it would be the same to let Viper live in the neighboring city. The next second, the iron box died with a ribbon and said the packaging box was opened. The moment he saw what was inside, Vernon let out a scream. And his face instantly turned deathly pale. He suddenly threw the box away, turned around, and slumped to the ground, vomiting all over the place. The box fell to the ground, and everyone saw what was inside. It was a pair of blood-covered eyeballs, with red shreds of flesh and white nerves still attached. A piece of paper with some words written on it also floated out of the box. Vernon. You will never appear in my eyes again. Everyone stood there in shock, not knowing what to do. Except Viper, who was still making a fuss. She still said in a coquettish voice. Oh, Vernon, Cuddy so failed Ryan say. What is this thing? It's so disgusting. What on earth is Scarlett trying to do? She's so inconsiderate. Come on. Someone. Throw this disgusting thing away. Far away. It would be best if wild dogs ate it. Then it won't scare Vernon. No one dared to move. Viper suddenly got angry and reached out herself, wanting to throw the piece of paper away first. But she didn't notice the madness and despair in Vernon's eyes as he stared at the paper. Just as Viper's hand was about to touch the paper, Vernon pushed her hard and roared. Get out of here. Who do you think you are? These are Scarlett's eyes. Her eyes. If you dare to touch them, I'll kill you. Viper was stunned. Vernon had never spoken to her in such a tone before. It was the first time she had seen Vernon so out of control and crazy. And yet he was like this not for herself, but for that bitch Scarlett. It was the same again. Why did everyone like Scarlett? Vernon hadn't fulfilled right except, how can you talk to me like this? How do you know these are Scarlett's eyes? She's the most insidious. Maybe these are cow eyes or pig eyes she got from the market to pretend. She just wants to make you nervous and sad. I know her best. She's just so mean. Before Viper could finish her words, Vernon suddenly got up and rushed in front of her, gripping her neck tightly. Shut up. If you say one more bad word about Scarlett, I'll strangle you right now. Vernon's eyes were filled with madness. He seemed to have lost his mind. Seeing Viper's face turning purple, the servant stepped forward and forcefully pulled Vernon away. Viper slumped to the ground weakly and murmured to herself. Why? Why are you treating me like this? That bitch. I should have killed her too in the first place. Vernon ignored Viper and shakily carried the 2 eyeballs and the piece of paper upstairs, as carefully as if he were holding fragile treasures. These were all told to me by Scarlett's mother later. She left Vernon's house not long after I left. She said that place made her feel scared. My surgery was a success. Lynn said that in a few days, after removing the gauze, I would be able to see the light. At first, it would be a bit blurry. And only by taking good care of it slowly would it become clearer and clearer. It was also I who asked Lynn to have someone send the eyeballs that had been removed from me to Vernon. To strike at a person's heart when killing them is something that women are born to understand better. I heard from Lynn that Vernon was desperately looking for me everywhere like a madman. Lynn also used all her resources to help me hide my whereabouts. So Vernon didn't manage to find me. I knew that there was still a glimmer of hope in his heart. Hoping that I was doing all these things just because of his kindness to Viper, and that I didn't know all the things he had done back then. Well, then I laid fuel to the fire. After being discharged from the hospital, Lynn arranged for me to stay in the neighboring city. When my body recovered a bit, I registered a new email account and used a tool to change the IP address to send an email to Vernon. It probably contained the following aspects: 1. The conversation he had with his friend in the study at that time. 2. The passionate scene between him and Viper in the guest room on the second floor. 3. The long speech that Viper said to me in the yard. Yes, I knew that with Viper's personality, she would definitely come to show off to me. So I turned on the recording function early and waited for her. There is one last thing, which is a passionate clip of her and Vernon in the hospital that Viper sent me, along with all the words she used to insult and mock me. Otherwise, why would I add Viper as a friend? A few days later, Lynn told me that Viper had been beaten into the hospital by Vernon and was seriously injured. Vernon was also fired from the hospital because of the serious nature of his assault. Is that all? It's still not enough. A month later, my eyes were completely recovered. I hired a lawyer and a private detective and began to prepare the evidence of Viper and Vernon's crimes. I want to send them both to prison and let them receive the punishment they deserve. However, the case didn't progress smoothly. First, too much time had passed, and many pieces of evidence and witnesses could no longer be found. Secondly, at that time, Vernon had handled the case too cleanly, leaving almost no traceable loopholes. In order to find clues, I had to return to Shanghai again. As soon as I landed in Shanghai, I saw the person I least wanted to see at the airport: Vernon. I'm not sure what Vernon used to be like, but he was definitely not reeking of alcohol and looking so decadent, with madness in his eyes. Vernon's family had some connections in Shanghai, so he was able to track down the flight on which I landed in Shanghai. As soon as he saw me, Vernon rushed towards me and suddenly hugged me tightly in his arms. Scarlett, I was wrong. Will you forgive me? Please come back to me. Okay? I'll give you everything. Please forgive me. Don't leave me. All right? I calmly pushed Vernon away and stared at him carefully for a while. Vernon, this is the first time I've really seen what you're like. You really make me sick. Vernon's eyes were red. He nervously ran his fingers through his hair, looking terrified. He forgot that I could see now. Scarlett, Viper deceived me. At that time, she said she just had a moment of desperation. So I helped her. Can you give me another chance? Everyone deserves a second chance. You can't sentence me to death just because of my one mistake. Scarlett. I stared at him and said coldly. Vernon, having fulfilled my sigh. How dare you ask me to forgive you? A chance? Did you give my parents a chance? They could have survived. Because of you. Because you made the first ambulance take only Viper away. My parents died. Because of you. I have to endure the suffering that's worse than death every day. You knew that there were more than one donors who could have made me see again in these 3 years. But what did you do? You chose to make me live in agony. Viper deliberately killed my parents. You knew it all. But you deceived me because I was blind and made me sign the letter of understanding and consent, allowing her to escape punishment and live happily abroad. Why should my parents lie in the cold ground, while she, that vicious woman, can still live freely? It's all because of you. All because of you. I once thought you were my salvation. But I never expected that you, Vernon, had until felt are the most vicious bastard. With every word I said, Vernon lost a little more strength. In the end, the light in his eyes completely went out. He pulled at his hair and burst into tears. Scarlett. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I love you, I love you. I really love you. Scarlett. Vernon. You're so despicable. Your love is also despicable. Now I just want to see you and Viper receive the punishment you deserve. I will defend my rights with the law. On that day, I will definitely celebrate with champagne. Get away from me. Vernon. Don't let me see you again. You make me feel sick. Extremely sick. I left without looking back, with Vernon's cries of grief lingering behind me for a long time. I had been searching for clues in Shanghai for several days. Fortunately, having fulfilled leave, Vernon didn't show up again during these days. The lawyer suddenly called me and said that Vernon and Viper had already been taken into custody in prison. It turned out that Vernon himself had compiled the evidence of his and Viper's crimes and directly turned himself in and pleaded guilty. The lawyer had also seen the materials submitted by Vernon. The evidence was conclusive, and the chain of facts was complete, with no problems. In the end, Viper was sentenced to death for the crime of intentional homicide, and Vernon was sentenced to 18 years in prison for a series of crimes such as intentionally covering up the crime, providing false testimony, and obstructing justice. Vernon cooperated with me and signed the divorce agreement in prison, and he also left most of his property to me. The only request he made was that I could go to the prison to see him once. I know he is begging for my forgiveness in this way. Will I forgive him? Of course not. This is the punishment he deserves. After a cloudy day, the sun will still rise. But some things will never come back. For example, my love for him. And for example, the forgiveness he seeks. I will never forgive him even a little bit. In this life, the next life, or the life after that. The end.